Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I wanted to talk today a little bit about eye for an eye. Is this something that we should be following today? Or are we called to be different? Now, I know I said on the our last show that, it'd be a one-off before I hit the new series, but new things keep on coming up in the media. And, even I released a small tidbit about Charlie Kirk, and in and outside of what's going on. But I really do think that if you don't feel it, you should be feeling it. I feel like there's something going on with society today. I feel like we're losing touch. I feel like our empathy is getting to where it's not really there. I mean, people would assume film something that's happening rather than help the person. And I mean, I'm being quite literal with that. We see where you have people filming somebody getting beat up. I just seen something the other day where this younger man beat the crap out of an older man that couldn't defend himself. I mean, even if the guy was being disrespectful, because I do believe that respect deserves respect. And if you're disrespectful, no matter what your age, you don't really deserve to get any respect back. But that's on just the attention you give that person, not that they don't have value or meaning, or that their life isn't something that we should take into consideration here. And it's on a really large high of happening. So we see the assassination with Charlie Kirk, and that was an open assassination. I've seen memes where people are talking about George Floyd versus Charlie Kirk and how the United States handled that versus rioting and looting or taking time in prayer. And I don't agree with the way that individuals handled George Floyd and his death. I don't agree with the looting and all of the property damage that was done, including to the community that they lived in, that these small business owners suffered over that. They had nothing to do with what happened to George Floyd. Nothing. And yet they were punished just for existing. And I think that that's where we're getting to be, is we seem to just be acting out. And we don't care about other people. We don't care about their livelihood. We don't care about their very existence as a human being. It's only if it suits us. And, I get this. We see this in the Bible where it says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And, people take that to heart, but I want to call you to something. If we read in the Bible, so if we look in Exodus 21, 23 through 25, but if there is a serious injury, you are to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, and foot for foot. This is also reiterated in Leviticus 24:19 through 20. Anyone who injures another person must be dealt with according to the injury inflicted, fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. In Deuteronomy 19:21, it says, show no pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Now, this is in the setting up of a brand new nation. And I think that this is a very early development of of life as well. We're talking pre-medieval times. And I also think that it's more about vengeance and wrath, and there was laws around this too. But that in itself referred to more of a vengeful act. If you injure my hand, I get to injure yours. But this was to establish a way to prevent people from committing horrid acts, because they knew that there was accountability for their actions. And in a society that is beginning and very primitive, that might have worked. But this is just the setting up of a new peoples. This is the Israelites coming out of Egypt with a lot of bad habits and worship of deities that are related to child sacrifice and orgies and sexual immorality and all kinds of bad things. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a little stricter in the beginning while people are establishing a moral compass. And we are an advanced society now. Even with that, in the establishment of, say, the nation of Israel, this peoples that's coming out of Egypt, there's still guidelines. You still had to have 2 witnesses, or 2 or 3 witnesses. I think it's 3 actually, to confirm this thing happened. It had things about whether you accidentally killed somebody, like say you got into a dispute and you just pushed them too hard and they fell and hit their head. You didn't intend to kill them. Or you were defending yourself. They had intent to kill you and you killed them in self-defense. Well, then there were sanctuary cities that you could go to so that vengeance wasn't taken upon you by loved ones or friends of that person, because the act was deemed self-defense, or it was deemed necessary for survival for that individual. This is shaky ground to base a way that we should be, because it's so long ago. It was so primitive. And this is a developing nation. And we rarely ever talk about what Jesus said about this. In Matthew 5:38 through 39, Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But I tell you to do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn and give them the other cheek also." And it also even talks about giving the tunics. Jesus starts teaching us in an attitude of forgiveness. And this is where we need to get into our Bibles, because things changed. We want to hold on to the evil act of getting vengeance, where God says plainly, vengeance is mine, not yours, because God is a much more righteous judge than we are. So Jesus is telling us to take an attitude of prayer, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Not to just say, hey, what you did was okay. We're not in the act of affirming sin. We're in the act of saying, hey, you made a mistake, or you are redeemable. There have been plenty of people who were convicted of murder and are reformed. A lot of it is through that they have accepted Jesus as their Lord and Savior. or they have come to a realization in some other religious context that they are, that they've changed. It is possible. I believe Jesus is the only way to heaven, but I don't doubt that other religious practices have transforming effects in people's mortal life. It can be, religion in general can be very changing, very life-changing. James says in 3:5-6, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire with a small spark. And then also Ephesians 4:29, do not let any unwholesome talk come from your mouth, by only what is helpful for building others up. The reason why I'm doing this and the reason why I'm saying this today and feel like this is something that we need to bring out is because there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do things. And whenever we have a wrathful heart and a heart of vengeance, we're going to go down the wrong way. We need to remember that empathy, love, patience, kindness, these are the hallmarks of a civilization that's going to be fruitful. If we live on the other way, such as in Satanism, where they say that someone wrongs you, destroy them, there is no heart of forgiveness. If you live under a banner of do as thou wilt, then you are going to be living by a very, very vengeful nature, a very heartless, non-empathetic nature. It's just how it is, whether you want to admit it or not. If you're in one of these other religions that are like that, I'm sorry. There's not going to be any empathy coming from vengeance. And that is exactly what a lot of them preach. They may mask it some other way. Well, it's okay to do this because it's done in nature. Nature has a purpose for good and evil. A Wiccan actually told me that. So that's not my mouth that's speaking that. That's actually somebody that I was ministering to that believed in witchcraft and wanted to follow the white light and dark magic kind of philosophy. But ultimately, they weren't a bad person, but they didn't dismiss that there was a necessity for practicing evil. They didn't dismiss it. Christ outrightly dismisses this. He's giving us a path and guidelines for a fruitful spiritual life. That's what's most important. It's not important to have everything you want and desire on this earth because it will rust and fade away. It says as much. That's a quote from Jesus. But it's on spiritual things and heavenly things that we should set our eyes upon. If we would do more of that, then I think that you would find that our society would be a lot better. It's just masked in free love, illicit drug use, transformation culture that is dealt by speak it into existence, and it's all just one big fancy self-help rhetoric. Lasting transformation comes through Jesus Christ and the Bible and the words that are in it. It was the original book. Everybody is looking right now and they can't see it. They're not finding because they are blind. Open your eyes, become awake, and see Christ for who he is. Like I said, sorry for the one-off, but this just needed to be said. I've seen so much violence, and I really genuinely care for every one of you. And I don't want to see you get sucked into that life. Talk to you next time.